Mr. Tacopina mentioned, and I missed this, the prosecution accepts their witness committing perjury. I missed that. There was an objection. I overruled it. I didn't hear the whole statement. I'm not accusing anybody of doing it proper, but that statement puts the prosecutors in an unfair light, and that was improper. I overruled the objection. I should have sustained it. I don't want any side being disparaged or being put in a false light. So I made that mistake. I own it. I apologize.
Thank you. Two things. One, by the way, I realized something. I said before that Mr. Efron said he'd seen the video previously when he said there were 2 shots. What I was talking about was when he was speaking to Wally. He had already seen the video. This was obviously after Rocky's arrest and after the civil suit was filed. So I wasn't suggesting he saw the video when he went to the police on November 8th, in case that came out unclear. My co-counsel thought it was. So anyway, now we're back on the Wally's Jimmy case. Look, all I'm saying is this. Their witness said those are fake. They played it as if they were real. So, whatever that means. But here, I'm going to go back to the crux of the Wallace and Jimmy case, what we were allowed to play because they
if you're just tuning in, this is day 13 of the trial closing arguments defense for ASAP Rocky. If you're not sure where we're at, if it was a prop then, or if ASAP was acting in self-defense, he is innocent.
I already know I'm getting dirty ends.
Period.
And I told you at the beginning of this case, I said in the opening, that there would be clear evidence of extortion, and here it is.
You know what I'm saying? You asked for back when I was lawyer first for extortion. Feel me? He's gonna have to deal with that and his political ties and everything else. Because once I walk away, when I get my cash, the case gets way weaker. It's just like a domestic violence case. If you was to hit your bitch and your bitch was to keep on going through with the situation, you go down. But if you're not there, then you're going against the state and it's way weaker.
Stop for a second before we play the second. You know, what he's saying is obviously he's going to trade his cash for the case, selling the criminal case. So he'll get his cash and he'll disappear. The example he uses, the analogy he uses, is disgusting. Of course, that's who, I don't know what front is, he's talking about a domestic violence case. And he references hitting, he says you're a bitch, but that's how his mind thinks. That's his example that he could come up with. But it really just goes to show you who he is and how despicable. But get my cash, I'm gone. Forget them. Play the next one, please.
If I'm not there, if he pays me out through my lawsuit, I'll walk away. Basically,
and they go leave your case out
because I'm gonna be on another highway. Just relax. You get what I'm saying? They're gonna be scrambling to find me because now they have to go against Rocky, the state. And here they have evidence in this and the third, but it's not going to be the same when you present it to a jury and you don't have a complaining witness.
That's it. Game, set, and match.
Wow.
That's extortion. That's him trying to sell a criminal case for $30 million. That he will go to an island, be relaxing, if he gets his money. Too bad for them. They'll have to go look for him. They have to find him. Imagine poor Detective Flores having to go search around, looking for Cabarel Efron as he's on an island sipping pina coladas somewhere for just $30 million. That's it.
Wow.
That's evidence of extortion. It's his mindset. He doesn't care about this. He just wants money.
Wow.
And you're his vehicle. The only reason, and by the way, this transcript's a little tough to read, I think, because I can't see it, but you'll have to go back with you, and you'll have the transcripts. But again, remember, the only reason he's not on some island somewhere relaxing, and we're all here in the schoolroom, is because Rocky refused to be a victim of his extortion demands. It's that simple. And that's why he's using this trial, brother, using these prosecutors. Now he's trying to use you to get him his money. Because he knows that a conviction here will get him what he really wants in this little case. That's it. This isn't about justice for him. It's about a payout and a payback. My last quote of some of the greats in our history, I love using some of the words of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, said an injured friend is the bitterest of foes. We saw that come here, live and in color. Lest there be any questions about his true intentions, consider this. He sent an article, you heard this testimony, to Wally Sajani on December 24th, 2024, just before this trial started, entitled, Rihanna Fears Heartbreaking Consequence of A$AP Rocky's Trial. And he sent it with a smiley face. A smiley face. This parasite is happy if he can hurt that family, that woman, and her family by sending a smiley face. That's funny. That's funny. Because she fears the heartbreaking consequences of this trial. So he doesn't care about this trial. He just wants his money. He wants to be on idle relaxing. And he's laughing and mocking what he can do to Rihanna and them. And he needs you to get that done. Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecution has not proven this case not by a long shot. It's not even, this literally, I'm not telling you what to do, this is going to be a 5-minute verdict. You take as much time as you need. I'm not trying to impede on your province. The only thing proven beyond a reasonable doubt is that this really is a pathological liar, a perjurer, and an extortionist. That's what's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And they know that. They know that because they asked Detective Flores the question that I just never heard. I used to be a prosecutor. There was a question that they asked.
That's improper argument.
Sustained, but they know it's perjury. Sustained.
He used to be a prosecutor as well, Your Honor. It's not part of the evidence.
What was the same?
What?
I'm sorry, what was the same, sir? What was the same, Eddie? What part?
That they know it was perjury.
I didn't say they knew. I didn't say they knew. I said what was proven beyond a reasonable doubt, because he's that pathological liar, a perjurer, and source. I didn't say they knew. I understand the court's rulings.
Yeah, we objected regarding discussions in the prosecutor.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. So, anyway, what they know, they asked Detective Flores this question. Would you agree, Detective Flores, that you don't need Mr. Efron's truthful testimony to establish a shooting occurred? Well, first of all, you do need it. You do. Remember, after breaking it down with Detective Flores, he made it clear to you they have nothing without him. We broke it down with him. We'll show you that transcript in a second. So you definitely need him, but he's just not credible. Why the heck do you think they asked that question? I mean, think about what that question screams out to you in the jury. We don't expect you to believe him, ladies and gentlemen. But it's okay. Because it's still proven. No, it's not okay. No, it's not okay. If you had to make a decision, the most important in your life or of that of your family is on his word, would you do it? Terrell Efron's word, would you do it? You all put the answer to that question. What you're being asked to do is make that decision in the most important matter in his life, on his word. Please look at the evidence carefully. Please. Evaluate it cautiously. And you'll see that there's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Rocky Murray is innocent. He's not only not guilty, he's innocent. An innocent man's on trial with absolutely no concrete evidence against him, no reliable evidence against him at all. Because he's innocent. He's not the luckiest man to over face is certain. Because there's absolutely no evidence of a shooting. And that heavy burden should not be yours to have to live with on this evidence. It should not be. It's not right, it's not fair to ask you to do what the evidence won't, to condemn an innocent man. And by the way, remember this, it's in your instructions, circumstantial evidence. If the evidence points to both guilt and innocence, you must, there's no option here, you must side with innocence. If there's two interpretations of the evidence, guilt or innocence, you must side with innocence. That's what the law is, the judge will tell you. It's in your little books. Jury instructions. You must. It's not an option. Tyrell Efron, I mean, what kind of system, seriously, folks, do we have if this kind of witness can convict someone and destroy their life? With all you know about him at this point. I've talked about there not being any forensic evidence in this case, no fingerprints, no DNA, there's none. No independent evidence outside of Tyrell Efron. And ladies and gentlemen, the judge told you it only takes one lie under oath to throw this case out of court by you, if you choose. It's your decision. But just one. Just one lie. It's justification for you to say, I disregard all his testimony. You can't even count the number of lies he told under oath in this case. You can't. He lied directly, he lied to your face, he lied under oath over and over, he exaggerated, he run around answers to try and avoid questions, he verbally assaulted me, he cursed in the courtroom, he threw a water bottle, flexed his muscles, he said he had enough, he was going to leave. How many does it take for you to know that this case is a fraud? To use Relly's own words, Relly's a fake. And he's just trying to profit off extorting case equity. He's just waiting for one thing, your verdict. Then he's got it. And if they come up and say, well, Relly's not on trial, that thought crosses your mind. It's true, he's not on trial, but he should be. He should be. Perjury, extortion. But he's not on trial. But what is on trial is his credibility. His credibility is on trial. And that you have to assess, and you get to assess. You must assess. Trial rises and falls on his word. With that in mind, again I ask, what kind of system do we have if we pick on the word of that man? That man. With all you know about him. The issue in this case is the life, future, and liberty of Rocky. And that's what will be placed in your hands very shortly. And the question to have you before you first said, do you believe Tyrell Efron beyond a reasonable doubt? I'm going to keep saying that because it's really what you need to discuss is beyond a reasonable doubt or not. If you don't, Rocky has to go free and go home. He has to. Submit upon this testimony you've heard, the perjury you've witnessed, the lies you've seen, the destruction of pieces of evidence you've observed, the fabrication of others, Mr. Efron's trustworthiness. There's no way in the world that you can find that he's trustworthy beyond the reasonable doubt. There's no way. On the important issues in this case, so it's the ones he lied about. He lied about everything. He lied about the important issues. And if you can't do that, if anything they said to you, if anything they presented to you caused you to pause or wonder what really happened, if you have a doubt, a reasonable doubt, Rocky must be acquitted. He must be. That's our legal system. You just witnessed extortion.
Innocent. Self-defense, prop gun, innocent.
The hiding of evidence. The line about being in Los Angeles 2 weeks before he sends him 9 million of the shell casings. On and on and on. And if you think he was lying about these important issues, the prosecution's case fails. Fails. So it's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. If you do not believe Terrell from beyond reasonable doubt, he must be acquitted. That's the law. A defendant in a criminal case is presumed innocent until the contrary is proved. In this case, it's not been proved. In the case of reasonable doubt, whether guilt is satisfactorily shown until it is, he's entitled to verdict. And the presumption placed upon the people that heavy burden of proving guilt is beyond reasonable doubt. And why is that standard called beyond reasonable doubt? Why? Look, there are many, I just want to give you some sort of analogies on this, but there are many legal systems around the world who don't have this proof beyond a reasonable doubt standard. They don't use juries, they use judges 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4. But our country has a philosophy, and that is we cannot convict people who are innocent. We cannot ruin their lives because what happens is so harmful, devastating, brutal, based on anything but the strongest evidence. And what is being attempted here? It's so harmful, so brutal, so potentially devastating to him. That's why there's such a high standard. Standard is higher than what you find in civil cases when you have disputes over money or property. If you have a reasonable doubt about this case, about the testimony, about the double talk, about the lies, the perjury, the manipulation of evidence, the destruction of evidence, Efron's motives, it's over. It's over. You must acquit Rocky according to the law. Is that true? Our system isn't perfect. You saw examples of people who were convicted and DNA later exonerates them because well-meaning juries didn't have evidence.
This is improper argument.
So you have those verticals, and it's like 250 less than there's nothing to do with this case, right? But it's by jurors who meant well, and they were subsequently exonerated by DNA evidence. Nonetheless, we have a system, and it's the best system in the world. It's the best system in the world here. It can't be perfect because human beings aren't perfect, but I'm begging you to honor that principle. Honor that principle of proof beyond reasonable doubt. Rocky must be acquitted under that standard with all the problems, the falsehoods, and the issues we've addressed. They cannot overcome them. They cannot overcome them. They can exaggerate. They can clean dirt. They can mock terminology of our witnesses. They can be sarcastic, repeating their unimpeached testimony. They can do whatever they want. They can't prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. This case never should have been brought to begin with, based on Terrell Efron, once they learned who he was. These are what we call burdens of proof in our legal system. In a civil case, again, which is a dispute over money and property, the one side that proves preponderance of the evidence, that's the standard. They get the verdict. Okay? And it's often described in very simple terms. If you have a scale, like the scales of justice, if it just goes 51% to 49% in favor of one party, they win. That's a civil case. That's what preponderance of the evidence. That's enough to bankrupt somebody. That's enough to take away their business, leave them penniless. It is not enough to convict them of a crime. There's even a higher standard than that in law called clear and convincing evidence. And clear and convincing evidence, for example, in custody disputes, for example, where the custody of a child is at stake. Clear and convincing evidence in some custody disputes, you can take a child away from the parent if you prove by clear and convincing evidence that that parent should not have custody. They have not met the standards for the legal system requires for parenting. Clear and convincing evidence. Clear and convincing evidence alone is not enough to convict someone of a crime in the legal system. So take a child away, but not enough to convict them of a crime. And let me ask you this. Do you think you've seen clear and convincing evidence in this case that Terrell Efron is truthful, that he's believable, that he's honest, that he's honorable, does not have financial motive in this case, that is to be believed and trusted? They can't even meet the clear and convincing standard, let alone the highest standard in our legal system, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not even close. To further explain beyond a reasonable doubt, and the judge gave some great examples in his preliminary instructions and how high that standard is. If you think someone may be guilty, that's not enough. If you think perhaps they're guilty, that's not enough. If you suspect they might be guilty, that's not enough. Possibly guilty, it's not enough. Probably guilty, not enough. Guilty likely, not enough. Guilty highly likely, not enough. It has to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, when you get into that jury room, ask yourself, do we have a reasonable doubt about Tyrell Efron in this case? Any. Because all it takes is one. Just one. Just one. You have 100. All it takes is one. Look, my time is almost up. I want to apologize to you again for the that this journey is taken. But you know, if you're seeking justice, there really are no shortcuts. You would trade place with me, you would want to fight hard and vigorously, especially if it was for a person who's maintained their innocence from the get-go, from day one. And I hope and I trust that you understand that in a journey towards justice that there are no shortcuts. Let me tell you how this is going to proceed now. After I go after lunch, I think, or maybe now, the prosecution will go again for another submission, for a rebuttal submission. We have this one opportunity to address you because they have this very heavy burden, so they go first and last. They will seek to rebut, which I brought up. Presumably, they won't be back up here talking about all sorts of new things, or they'll face objection. But they have to seek to rebut what is being argued right now. And let me tell you up front, I'm loath to object during someone else's argument. I don't do it. I didn't do it once before. Try to do it in this room. But if something new is brought up, you know, it may be helpful. Let me tell you also this. If he brings up anything new, we may be precluded from standing up again and saying, wait a minute, here's an answer to that. Wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen, you have an answer. But you can substitute your common sense. You all can substitute your common sense. Your judgment in that place, and that's required towards this journey. In this journey towards justice, you can substitute your common sense. You can respond for it. It's not out loud, don't do that. But you can respond. I'd like to remind you of something Judge Arnold told you. By the way, before I do that, I just want to also tell you that we're all very fortunate having this judge. I've been before many, many judges. His patience with us in particular, his humility, he is an inspiring role model for what a judge should be. So you're all very lucky to be in this world. I feel it. Anyway, His Honor told you in the beginning that Mr. Lewin will have the opportunity, the prosecution Mr. Lewin will have the opportunity to sum up last. It's not because I lost the coin toss. It's not because of that. At the beginning of this thing. It's because that's the rules. They have the very heavy burden, and those are rules established by the state. So because they have the heavy burden of proving someone guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, they go last, and that's a burden that never shifts to us. We have no burden. When a prosecutor has a particularly weak case like this, which stands or falls on evidence not worthy of belief, where's that from? They always make some sort of pitch like, oh, the witnesses aren't on trial. I defy them to get up here and convince you that the evidence shows beyond a reasonable doubt that Rocky didn't act in self-defense or defense of another, or that the starter pistol was a real thing, beyond a reasonable doubt. I defy them to explain to you why. Watch for attacks on defense, watch for questions posed by him, knowing we're not allowed to respond. The law says you can respond for me. One other thing I'm going to pose to them right now. Remember yesterday I was telling you about this issue regarding cartridges from a prop gun. Because you heard about a prop gun can eject, does eject some sort of a casing. And I said to you, there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever regarding what blank casings from a prop gun look like. You heard evidence that from Lou Evans, the only one that was asked about it. There's paper and plastic in a prop gun bullet, so to speak. There's no evidence of how far or what direction they would be ejected to from the prop gun, whether they would still be intact or not, be split open. There's no evidence of that in this record at all. And certainly, this is no evidence that they would look anything like something that would be observable by the police, like those silver, shiny, metallic casings from the real firearm. No evidence whatsoever. I was told yesterday, there was an objection, I was told I was missing the evidence. I then said, first of all, I don't mistake the evidence, and I challenged the prosecution. Okay, if I'm mistaking the evidence, today, when they get up, show the jury.
Your Honor, this is improper argument.
If I mistake the evidence, show the jury when you stand up. That I mistake the evidence. Show them the evidence in this record that cartridges from a prop gun are metal or metallic or anything. Anything. There's no evidence in the record at all. I'm still going to mistake the evidence. They could probably should. Now, it comes a time for me now to conclude my remarks, and I may never have another opportunity to speak to you again, certainly not this setting, maybe when the case is over. And you've been told many, many times there are very heavy burdens placed upon the prosecution of people for good reasons to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. And as such, it is Stillman's duty to answer for you as best it can any legitimate questions arising from the evidence which we believe is cast doubt on Rocky's guilt. There may be 1,000 such questions in a case like this, which we could put to them, but we intend no such exercise. We'll be here until the summer. I do think, after careful deliberation, that it might be fair to suggest 10 questions that literally hang in the air in this courtroom at this very moment. And as the time approaches for you to decide this case, for us to hand the baton to you as you will, I offer these questions now as the most important challenge to the prosecution. The prosecution claims it's met its burden in this case. They claim that. Well, if the burden has in fact been met, then you'll be given logical, sensible, credible, satisfying answers to each of these 10 questions. If, on the other hand, the questions are overwhelming or unanswerable, those questions will be ignored, or you'll be told that the prosecution has no obligation to answer our questions. If you're giving anything less than complete, sensible, satisfactory responses to these 10 questions, beyond a reasonable doubt, you'll quickly realize that the case is transparent and false, and false. We prove real hard things for you, things you can see, things you can't take back.
Asaph is innocent. If you think it's a prop gun or self-defense, he's innocent.
And when I'm concluded, and
If you have any doubt that he's innocent, he's innocent.
I should decide to deal with these very troublesome questions. I'm going to leave him to do it less.
I agree, Tukey. I think he's doing a good job.
Questions when I conclude. Let's see if he wants to throw them or not. But
Happy
I'm gonna show you those
Valentine's Day
questions
to
there.
everybody.
Let me
Yep,
go
all
over them
love. Happy
one by one.
Valentine's Day to everybody.
Question number 1. Other than Relly's word, what evidence is there that he photographed shell casings at the scene? Okay, there is none. We know that. Because even though they have photographs from his phone, they didn't get the metadata to show where those photos were taken. We also know they didn't get his GPS location at 11:45 that was shown where he was when he took those photos. Number 2, other than Relly's word, what evidence is there that the shell casings even came from the scene? No evidence other than his word. Lydia Parker's not here. Just talk about the metadata and the GPS location. Third question I asked him to answer. Other than Relly's word, what evidence is there that he even went back to the scene? Because now we know he swears that at 11:09, that's not him. That's not him anymore. And there is no video of him going back to the scene. So now we're left with his word again. Because they had Ill's GPS location, but not Relly's. Number 4. Other than Relly's word, what evidence is there that he ever left Los Angeles after going to a shooting range, shooting off 9mm, by the way, 2 weeks before the incident? Again, it's just his word that he left Los Angeles 2 weeks before. So he took a flight, and he took a flight back. That would have been a very easy one to prove. But we just have his word. Number 5. Other than Relly's word, what evidence is there that the scrapes on his knuckles
Drop
were
a not guilty in the chat if you're watching. Drop a not guilty in the chat if you're watching and think he is not guilty.
Other than Relly's word, what evidence is there that a conversation ever happened on November 5th, to set the tone for November 6th, between ASAP Bari and Rocky?
I agree,
Other than
I
his word,
agree. Everyone
there's
that's
no ASAP Bari, there's no phone records, so we just have to take Relly's word that that happened. Number 7. In light of Lou Levin's testimony and in light of Lou Levin and 12B's unimpeached testimony, other than Relly's word, what evidence is there that Rocky did not carry a problem? Other than Relly's word? There's none. No evidence of a shooting. Nothing from either video says that's not a problem. None. Number 8.
Free Alex, Eden, and Morales.
Other than Relly's word, what evidence is there that he was shot by an operable semi-automatic firearm? Again, other than his word, no evidence whatsoever. Number 9, this one's my personal favorite. Number 9. How is it that you do not need Relly's truthful testimony, remember that question, to establish a shooting occurred when Detective Flores told you, A, the parking garage video does not show an operable gun. That's his testimony. So let me break it down this way. Video 1 alone, you don't know if the gun's operable, correct? Correct. B, the video from 1616 Vista Del Mar does not show if there's any gun at all. The answer to that was specifically just looking at that and not looking at anything else? No. Well, that's the video. Just looking at that, no. And C, the sound heard on the video from 6200 Hollywood Boulevard may have come from a replica firearm, according to Detective Flores. So, no evidence of an operable gun in one video. No evidence of the gun at all, or any shooting in the second video. And the pop-pop,
I think these are great.
according to that case, detective could have come from a replica. So, do you need Relly's testimony? Because if you just don't have it, if you take it out, like was suggested in that question, Detective Flores told you there's no evidence. No evidence that there was a shooting or an operable firearm. And number 10, given that Relly told you he can lie whenever he wants, you saw him commit perjury multiple times. Relly told you he will commit perjury when he doesn't want to answer a question. How can you trust Relly with a matter of importance in your life, the life of a loved one, or the life you sit in judgment of? I don't know how they answer those questions. They can't. I will leave these same questions right here. We'll see if you get answers.
It's all on Relly.
You have the capacity to transform his very dark 3.5 years into a bright tomorrow. You have that capacity. You have the power in your hands. It's up to you now. We're going to pass the baton to you now, or very soon anyway. And you will do the right thing, I'm sure of it. You made that commitment for justice. You'll do the right thing. I will go someday on to other cases, no doubt. Mr. Lewin, Mr. Siegel, Mr. Versloman, Mr. Kaplan. We will, Judge Arnold will try another case someday, I hope. But this is Rocky's one day in court. By your decision, you control his very life in your hands. Treat it carefully. Treat it fairly. Be fair. Do the right thing. Remember the testimony of Terrell Efron and ask yourselves if you would trust him with any matter of importance in your life. And if the answer is no, you can't trust him with a matter of importance in his life. The case rises and falls as you saw with him. All you can do is try and give Rocky's life back. Imagine living under despicable accusation, 3.5 years. Facing what he's facing, knowing he didn't do a thing wrong. It's been my privilege, my absolute privilege, and honor to represent someone that I admire as much as this man. And I thank his amazing family for putting their trust in me. You ask questions in jury selection that if you had a doubt, would you have any problem saying not guilty? Would you have the courage to say not guilty? Did you have the mental fortitude to walk back into this courtroom if they failed to prove him guilty? Do you have the courage to walk back in here and say, we find him not guilty? You all said you could do that. You all said it. That's why you were picked. That's why the 16 of you are here. You know that's part of your job. You said you could do it. I'm going to hold you to that, and I hope you hold yourselves to it. That's what makes this system great. Your courage, your willingness to stand up for what's right. Look, this courtroom says Mark S. Arnold, judge. He's the judge. Judge Arnold's courtroom. But when it comes to the facts in this case, it's your courtroom. When it comes to what's right in this case, it's your courtroom. When it comes to what's fair in this case, it's your courtroom. No one will take that from you.
All the power in the jury. Did you hear him? This is why we must do jury duty.
I'm going to tell you something. What happened here isn't right. Think about that. Because if the message was going to be sent out, that proof like this is not to make one of us, one of our citizens, none of us have a chance. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. Thank you, Mark.
All right, we'll take a break now, folks.
Wow.
Please be outside the courtroom doors at 1 o'clock. At which time
Now we're going to keep walking because I've heard some of the wildest stuff right after.
You have not
So
heard
let's
everything.
keep watching.
Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves or anybody else, and we'll see you in about 7 minutes.
Jury duty is our duty. That's right. Jury duty is our duty. That's why it's so important to be the 1 in 12 to forever change someone's life in your community. Okay, so they turned off the volume, but sometimes they go back. We'll be keeping our eye on it. If you haven't already, we have a podcast that's out. We have a podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's also on Amazon. You search MrCheckpoint on those apps. You can download it. We have 3 episodes out. The 4th episode should come out today. We are interviewing basically our guests on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then the episode comes out on live platforms at on Fridays. So today we are expecting to get episode 4 out. I appreciate the chat. Ghost Dog TV on YouTube. Thank you. Saying America needs to be more like Mr. Checkpoint. Appreciate that. Perrin Peru. Hi on Twitch. Thank you. Buddyhead on Twitch. Good to see you. We got Instagram here. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Thank you, Tukey, for always being here. Let me make sure there's no sound. Yeah. So now the prosecutor will be up next. This is why jury duty is so important. This is the power of the juror. This is why when you're called, it's so important to be the 1 in 12. It's so important. It's the most important thing we can do for someone in our community. Whoever's a 1 in 12 in Rocky's case, is in his community, is in LA. This happened in LA. You understand? So they have the power in your community to change someone's life forever. So jury duty is our duty. It's the #1 initiative of AFTP Foundation. It's the #1 initiative of AFTP Foundation. And we appreciate all the support. Follow us on Substack. Check us out on Substack. If you get the DUI checkpoint alerts, we are about to move it to Substack. We're currently on Patreon, but we're about to make the switch to Substack. So appreciate y'all for tuning in. As I said before, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, iHeart, however you could listen to a podcast, search Mr. Checkpoint. Search Mr. Checkpoint. You can also go to MrCheckpoint.com/live, MrCheckpoint.com/live, and it'll take you to a link to see episode 1, 2, 3, and 4 should come out today. All right, be safe, everybody. And I'm ending the live, and I think I'll be back for the prosecutor. All right, peace.